Hi, I'm Ashley, and this is an internal training video for EPiC Online. In this presentation, we will be guiding you on how to give specific feedback to our students during sessions. Feedback to students should be specific, relevant, and explain how the student can do better. What tends to happen is that we do receive comments from our students that feedback given by coaches after a lesson are sometimes considered too general or what we call canned. They feel that coaches sometimes just give feedback for the sake of it. So a couple of examples of canned feedback. Strengths: you have a good reading comprehension, you have good pronunciation. On areas of improvement and weaknesses, some coaches say you need to improve on your grammar, you should develop your vocabulary. Recommended activities, they might say you should read English books or newspapers, or you should watch English movies, TV shows, etc., etc. The issue with these types of feedback is that they do not identify the genuine proficiency level of the student. And when providing feedback to a student, it should always be in line with his or her performance during a session. So, here are a couple things to consider when giving feedback. Justify or explain to the student why you mentioned such strength or weakness. You should give a rationale to the student, why he or she has good reading comprehension, why she has good pronunciation. I will go through an example later of how you could spell these out a little bit more. A coach should also highlight to the student at what point of the session or activity or exercise that he or she displayed such strength or weakness. If you mention to the student that he or she should improve on the grammar, we encourage you to highlight the exact sentence, word, or instance where the student committed the error. This not just identifies a particular proficiency concern, but it would also help the student to realize such error at the same time. When you're doing these sessions, we certainly encourage you to take notes down of these lapses or strengths of the student during the session and refer back to them later. It also helps to make sure if they've made an error or they have an error that they keep coming back to pronounce it for them first or say it for them and then have them repeat it. This is called modeling. This is it's good for the student to hear what it should sound properly like before trying to repeat it. And coach should also explain the purpose of a recommended activity, exercise, and the benefit of it for the student. When recommending an activity, we should make the student understand what he or she will get from doing the activity and how it will improve his or her proficiency. Again, we should be specific in recommending the activities and the purpose of it. Some things to consider with recommending activities is they should be in relation to the student's area of improvement, and also that are appropriate to the student's proficiency and interest. You should consider the level of the student and the things he or she is interested in. This way, it will not just be suitable, but also enjoyable for the student to do the recommended activity outside of EPiC Online sessions. Be sure to explain to the student how he or she will make the most of the recommended activity or exercise. So give suggestions on how the student can maximize, their learning from the activity, such as writing words that he or she didn't understand from reading a particular article, or to read aloud when reading, or if they're watching the news or a TV show, to copy the lip movement of a word pronounced by an actor. But again, you need to explain how this will help them. And also don't forget to cite examples of material for the recommended activity. If you can provide a source or give a specific example of what you think they should be watching or reading, then do it. And emphasize to the students what they can do to make these materials more suitable for their proficiency level as well. So I'm just going to read through an example of constructive feedback, and we have a couple of short sentences taken out for here. So here's an example of constructive feedback. Our session is almost over, James. Before we end, let me give you some feedback. First, I'm very glad that you were able to understand the reading exercise we had today. Based from our discussion, and the result of the follow-up activity we did, I can tell that you were able to comprehend the majority of the article. I can also say that your pronunciation has considerably improved from our last meeting. You can pronounce letters like R and L, vowels like E and I with, a more moderate Chinese accent. In this example, be sure to cite words pronounced by the student during the session that they did well, and maybe some that they didn't do so well. I noticed, however, that you are sometimes unaware of some grammar rules, particularly when it comes to verb tenses and subject and verb agreement. A while ago, when we were talking about the article, you said, "The children is unhealthy these days because of fast food," or "She liked classical music," "He go to school yesterday." It would be good if you read some basic grammar books during your spare time. To further improve your vocabulary and pronunciation at the same time, you can practice aloud reading of articles within your interest. Since you are interested in current affairs, you can read some short news articles from CNN or BBC. If you encounter unfamiliar words, you can write it down and refer to a dictionary. It would be good if you learn a new vocabulary word every day. You could also use an online translation tool if you can't really understand a definition of a word. Since you're also into traveling, you can read articles from travel guide websites, magazines, or books. By studying the phrases and expressions being commonly used when traveling, like asking for directions, booking for a hotel, or dining in a restaurant, you will definitely pick up some extra language from just studying those. So in this example, the examples of the articles they're reading are quite specific. And also, in this feedback, the coach has obviously taken the time to sort of point out, to make note of what they're interested in and point out articles that would be interesting to them. So please do take all of this, do note all of this next time you have an EPiC online session, and let's avoid canned feedback. Thank you for your time, guys. Until the next video.